Now, horror movies are known for having some messed up characters, but this, hey, I don't know how to describe this, bro. We're about to see this in a minute. Alright, so the movie begins with this girl running a bookshop, of course, in the middle of the night, and she is already disrespecting customers for no reason. So she then call his boyfriend, and surprisingly, the boyfriend is a freak, and they are in the same mall. I don't know the point of the phone call at this point. And now the boyfriend starts tweaking, hearing somebody call his name, and he's like, what? At this point, if I was that, I would have just left this guy, bro. Okay, so the girl goes back to his little bookshop to close it when sees books falling off the shelf, and of course she goes on to check on what's going on right there. So we just see this guy in a ghost face mask. At this point, I thought this one was Scream or something, bro. And it turns out this guy really wants to gut her down. Just she does have to run away, and for some reason she just goes on and say, you know what? I'm just going to hide where there are a bunch of masks looking like that guy. And surprisingly, this Scream guy trying to kill her was already like, how bro. Before she realized what's literally going on, the guy got her, and I was like, oh boy, this is already over for her. So this guy chases her down into the hallway, and you just see him stabs her in the back. She literally falls to the ground. The guy gets back on top, and so after she gets stabbed on her chest, should I say chest or breast, and you see her struggling to get the guy's mask off, and she then realize it's her Timu boyfriend Ryan, and we just see Ryan's forehead gets popped with Sheriff Nick Good, probably just the sheriff of the area. Now the movie is a bit messed up in terms of Shadyside and Sunnyvale stuff. So Shadyside is part of, like, the Afghanistan. What am I saying, bro? Shadyside is known for mass murders, while Sunnyvale is known to be promised land. Should we call it the promised land or something? So that is just probably the entire thing about the intro. Alright, so we start off with Dina trying to write a letter to Sam, and this is a Netflix show. Of course, she is Dina trying to write a letter to Sam and something, and she keeps on messing it and be like, nah, you know what, fuck that shit, bro. Alright, so she got a brother called Josh, and this is some sort of a nod and something. So Josh is out there chatting with somebody on his computer, and they be talking about Sarah Fear. So probably in the Shadyside they believe they have a ghost, or probably a witch. They do call her a witch called Sarah Fear, who is responsible for every Shadyside matters going on. Now they do actually make it to school, and Josh sees one of the human beings that gives him sleepless nights, and she turns out to be a freak, and she is a friend of Dina. At this point, I would be personally pulling the Prime T'Challa line.
I need you to give this to Sam tonight.
No way.
Now Shadyside has a match against Sunnyvale, and while they are lighting candles, Sam meets Dina, and she's crazy mad about seeing her getting pressed early. So a fight breaks between the Shadysiders and Sunnyvale. Now while everybody's leaving, Sam pulls up with her boyfriend trying to follow the Shadysiders, and for some reason Dina's nose just starts bleeding, and she drops the cooler on Sam's windscreen, causing an accident. Sam of course survives, and she's out here bleeding with her nose too, and when she touches the ground she sees all types of whatever that is. Dina and her friends pull up, and they try to, like, how many fingers do I have up? Then Sam straight up just pukes blood on this guy's shirt. Nick Good shows up and interrogates them, and they all say it's just an accident. Wakes up, she sees blood on her shoes from the previous night. Now somebody keeps knocking at the door, and gets out, she just sees this guy standing right there. So she gets back to the house, and when she goes to the kitchen, she sees the same guy standing outside the window. Dina calls Kate while she's babysitting, and we see the same guy breaks into the house, and he seems to be looking for something. Alright, so they pull up at Dina's house, and they think it's Sam's boyfriend who is stalking them at this point. And now they decide to go to the hospital where Sam is admitted to ask them about his. God knows what they were going to do there, bro. Now they actually arrive at the hospital, and when Dina is confronting Sam about his boyfriend, the boyfriend turns out to be there. So they start just arguing about something else, and when they are arguing, now with Sam's boyfriend dead, they start running for their life, while the rest steal an ambulance. We get this ghost mask face guy kill this guy mercilessly, and when they are about to escape, Dina gets to see the guy's face, and surprisingly it's Ryan. Now they do actually run to the station to report the matter, and we see Nick Good planting spring cans on Matthew. So they do report this to Nick Good, and he says it's a prank, and everybody is literally wearing Ryan's mask at that point. Nick Good then gets a call to the hospital case, and he leaves them with this goofy cop who gets his gun stolen by Dina. Now as far as I said, horror characters are usually weird. So my boy Simon right here says he needs to take a leak, so he goes off. Boy, hell no bro, hell no bro. Alright, so as Simon takes a leak, he hears a girl singing, and for some reason you are still going to check this out. So he does go check this out, and he gets sliced. So as Simon is getting attacked, Gina pulls up with his friends, and they straight up just shoots this woman in the eye, popping the eye off her face, and we just see her waking up like nothing literally happened. Now they do actually get back to the base, and Josh hears Simon say about she attacked her with a blade, and yeah, of course, he's an art. They come to conclusion that's Ruby Lane from 1965 Shadyside murders. He then does pulls up with his big ball saying, talking about all the Shadyside murders, and all of these are all caused by Seraphia. When Seraphia cut off her arm, and she did this to like seal herself and seal the cars as well. Now probably Seraphia was also hanged for her witchcraft. Alright, so they do take a bold move to go to the forest where Sam had an accident, and surprisingly they find a skeleton right there with a chain, and it's written Seraphia. So they come into conclusion that that's Seraphia's body, and for some reason Sam's nose starts bleeding again, and she touches the chain. Bro, what is this, bro? Now she gets flashbacks and all of those, and while Josh is seemingly saying he hears somebody in the woods, a guy with an axe just pulls up and runs past Josh to try and attack Sam, who is saved by Dean. Now they do actually run back to the ambulance, talking about it gotta be Seraphia's henchmen coming after them. And while they are arguing in the ambulance, Sam says they are after her, and she says she saw Seraphia, and that's the reason they are after her. They tried twisting stuff like Simon also got attacked before, and Dina also got attacked before. So this is where they see the blood on Simon's cloth and the blood on Dina's shoe, and this insinuates that they were not after them, but they were after Sam's blood. And this is where they now decide to plan and use Sam as a bait. Now I don't know how they were planning to defeat her, but yeah, they just had a plan to defeat them. Alright, so we see Sheriff Nick Good in the hospital trying to figure out what is happening, and he straight up just sees all the murder that just happened. He walks out and he sees Ruby Lane's necklace, and for some reason he just picks it and goes with it. Josh, Dina, Sam, whatever, all of them arrive at the school, and they now have a plan to defeat all the Seraphia's goons that are after them. Now before they do actually plan to execute their plan, they have a break, and of course this is Netflix. Dina has whatever they gotta do there, and my boy Josh gets laid for the first time. He was straight up just happy. I wish I was that. And Simon, my boy over right there, was also having fun on his own, and now it's time to set up the trap. So what they were actually trying to do right here was use Sam's blood to lure all the killers into one room, set up an explosion with gas, and kaboom. That was their plan all along. So now they actually set up this plan, and they paint blood on the floor to allow the killers to follow the blood trail, and it actually worked. And for some reason Ruby was also after Sam, and man, you gotta just accept her, bro. Okay, so surprisingly they were actually right, and the killers just walk past them and follow the blood trail into the room they had planned for, and kaboom, they straight up just blows all the killers that were after them. Actually, witchcraft doesn't work that way, so they start forming back together, and they then run and hide into the room. At this point they do not have any plan left, so their plan failed, and now they are clueless. For some reason Kate just said the killers were not after them, and they would just sacrifice Sam, and all of them would just walk out of their cell. Everybody else decides to accept with that, and for some reason personally I would have accepted that. that's good survival horror tactic right there, bro. Sam walks out of the room, she steps outside, waits for her death, and bro, I cannot go down this way. I would just rather run for my life than stand right there and wait for that thing. Hell no, bro. Now before the thing reaches Sam, they actually pull things together, and they see that in 19 or whatever, like around 30 years back or maybe 14 years back, I did not get time to read what that was. So they saw there was somebody by the name Siban who survived the exact same thing they were going through, and now they had time to save Sam and figure out how they could save Sam at that. Now they actually do figure out that Siban actually died, her heart stopped before they brought her back to life. biology. Okay, so her heart stopped before they actually brought her back to life, and she did not just typically survive. After this, we see Sheriff Good walk into an anonymous house, and he drops in a letter saying it's happening again. And at this point, we'll just assume he was talking to maybe the Seaburn guy who survived. With this new information, they decide to make a new plan, and it is to give Sam a bunch of pills to kill her precisely and then inject her with that pen. Yeah, again, I say biology, and then that will definitely bring her back to life. Now this plan was pretty much great until I saw them doing this. They decided to like plan a distraction to buy Sam time to die. It's pretty weird, and they decide to use Sam's blood to mark themselves. And at this point I was like, oh my god. And for the first time I saw Josh pull up the most heroic line that should be precisely followed by all horror movie characters, and it was like, splitting is a bad idea, but this guy just straight up just says, nah bro, this one will cause a lot of distraction more than. Oh my god. Now, as we see Dina give Kate a bunch of pills to swallow while trying to kill her, my boy Ryan pulls up and tries to stab them when Kate actually intervenes and sprays fire on their face just to distract them, and Ryan be like, you know what, I'm just going to come for you now, bro. Alright, so Kate actually hides from Ryan, and my boy Ryan actually finds her, and I saw Ryan stab Kate, and I was like, boy, this is actually over, bro. Now after Kate gets stabbed, she grabs energy. I don't know where she got the energy from, and tries to fight Ryan back when I see the meat grinder get turned on, and I was like, oh my god. So 2 seconds later we just see my boy Ryan is the king one of this shit. Okay, so Ryan pulls up and puts Kate on top of that table, and straight up just drags Kate into the meat grinder. Now Simon gotta have a history with Ruby Lane, because Ruby was straight up on his ass, but this time around he gets to cause a distraction and straight up just runs away. We pull up to Josh, and Josh got the axe guy, bro. Of all the people who they decide to get, was the axe guy against Josh. So Josh as well escapes, and they get to reach Simon, and they both escape together. Now Dina at this point was realizing the pills were not going to get Sam killed that easy, so she planned on maybe drowning her to get it to work faster. Now while Simon and Josh runs together, they get to see what happened to Kate, and they were like, boy, hell no. They both freeze, and my boy Josh was like so while they are frozen, the axe guy just pulls up, and yeah bro, massacre, bro. With Simon dead, Josh gets to run, and my boy Ryan was straight up just trying to catch another body, so Josh trips to nothing and just falls. Typical horror movie characters, by the way. And while he's down there, Ryan just pulls up the knife, straight up about to pull the same move he's been doing the entire game, and Sam dies by drowning. And at this time all the goons of Seraphia disappear. Now with Sam dead, so they get pulled out this pen, and they start just stabbing her. Hopefully just she wakes up, and surprisingly she does actually wake up, and it's pretty good. They've defeated Seraphia, their tactic worked, but at what cost? 2 of the friends are dead, and it seems like Dina will never even care about the 2 friends are dead, bro. That's why I said this character is the messed up character I've ever seen in a horror movie, bro. Now for some reason they actually did manage to win, or it looked like they did actually manage to win. So we see Sheriff Good interrogate them, and Sheriff Good just straight up tells Sam that she looks like a ghost, and that she looks like she just came from the dead, which is pretty weird as well. Sheriff Nick Good pulls a move by saying he will actually accept to help them by just saying, it's a Kate and Simon that were pretty much messed up, and they caused all of those kind of things, and that is what maybe the board or society would allow to hear or accept to hear. And I was like, hold on, Sheriff, why would you say that, bro? Anyway, so they clear out their name by just putting the blame on Kate and Simon, which is pretty weird as well. Again, I'll say they just sacrificed their friends for no reason, bro. Or maybe there is a reason they did that. For the rainbow stuff, everything seems to be pretty much settled, and these guys are pretty much enjoying their time. And then Dina gets a phone call, and after she answers the phone, she finds out it's Sivan who done called them, because they tried to call her before and they could not get to her. They say that they cannot stop Seraphia because she always wins in the end. So when she actually just says this, we see the witch, and actually, should we even call this the witch or something? So we see this cave, and there is a rock with all the serial killers of Shadyside, and Sam's name appear written right there. So at this point we did not even get to see the witch's face. we just see Sam pulls up with a knife and stabs Dina. Josh is probably in the basement still doing his naughty stuff, while Sam and Dina probably fighting up there, and Sam straight up just knocks her out. They actually tie Sam up and she's straight up just tweaking right there. And now this line just got me messed up when Dina straight up just said, "I'm going to get you back." Bro,